Okay, I'm recording. How are you doing?
I am, like I said, I've had some time to just sit here and reflect. And I've had some difficult days since we last talked, and so here I am. I think we talked on Tuesday, right? I had binged and purged on Monday night, and then we talked on Tuesday. And the rest of Tuesday was calm, and then Wednesday was not a good day.
Yeah.
Yes, I binged and purged twice in one day.
Yeah. Are you seeing it more clearly? Why? Why you're binging and purging? The whole point. What's the whole point of it? Do you see it?
Is it to like run away?
No, it's because you want to be thin. It's because you want to be thin. Yeah. The whole thing. It's like it's not complicated. You want to be thin, and then life is triggering. You want your food. The only way you get food is if you know you're going to purge because you have to be thin. So then you binge because you have a moment of freedom, and you got to get it all in because you have to starve yourself with the diet to be thin. The whole thing is based on thinness. The whole thing. It shouldn't be surprising to you. You're an expert. It's not an illusion. It shouldn't be confusing in any way. It's not like, oh, I never thought of that, Robin. No. It's just a matter of you wanting to end it or not. You have to really look at it and see either you want thinness or you want to recover. You can't have both. It's painful. It's a painful process. Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? Living in hell is worse. I know that from experience. So it's painful only because you have to give up the narcissism. That's painful because it feels like you need it to survive. I need to be thin to stay alive. I need it to survive. And so what it feels like to let it go is like death. That's painful. But what's worse? The way you're living? So if you think that the way that the pain of being not thin, basically, is worse, then you're not going to recover. It's really a choice. Do you see that? No one's making you. No one's making you do it. No one. It's a choice. You're choosing. You're choosing to say, I want to be thin, I need to be thin, you're the one that's such a choice. It doesn't feel like it because it feels like without it, it's like I'm choosing to be in pain because there's pain. That's what you're managing is the pain of having to be fatter. It's all psychological, right? And it is a choice. You're choosing one over the other. Either I continue to suffer, which is what I know what I know what that is. I know what that is. Or I feel pain. Which one do you feel? I know for me it felt for a while there it was like, well, this is what I know and I feel good about it and I have hope that I will eventually be thin and this will all go away. There's a point where I won't have to suffer like this. It was the moment I realized there is no way out that suicide became real for me, was that realization. There's no alternative. Either I'm fat or I have to stay where I'm at. Because the only way to stop doing all this crazy shit is to let the body be what it's going to be. And I'd rather die. Right? That was the choice I made. And you're there too. I mean, not saying that you're suicidal or anything, but you're doing the same thing I did. You're no different than me. You're no different than everybody else that I've worked with. It's all the same. That's why you hear them and you're like, oh my God, I'm just like that. Holy shit. I heard myself in that. Yep, it's all the same. And the recovery is the same for everybody. You have to be okay with the pain of letting go of what you think you need to survive, which is being thin. And to do that, it feels like there's death there. It feels like a death, you know. But the benefit of that death is freedom. It's amazing. And you've had a taste of that. Wow, when I did let it go, when you did, what did it feel like?
I feel like something that I have never really experienced.
Yeah, but what did it feel like? You have experienced it. So now you have. What's it feel like?
It just feels like freedom.
Bliss. It's blissful. It's like reality. Like I have a life. Like there's a purpose. And it's infinite. And it's magnificent. And it's open. And I have choices. Well, you either get that or you get the idea of what you think you're going to get from being thinner. So compare what you think you'll get from being thinner or staying thin to that freedom. Which one's better?
Yeah, the freedom.
Well, that's not true. Well, I know it's true in reality, but not to you. If it was true, would you be having such a hard time?
Would I have what?
Would you have such a hard time letting go of being thin? If it was true, would this be so hard? No, I know. So you know it, you felt it, but you think being thinner is better. That's why you still hold on to it. You're grasping onto it. You're grasping onto what you get out of being thinner. It's actually not the thinnerness you're grabbing onto. That's how you've attached what you get out of thinnerness, right? You attach the emotion you've attached to thinnerness. That's what you want. It's not necessarily the thinnerness. It's what you're going to get from the thinness that you're not letting go. So what you get out of being thinner. What do you get out of being thinner? I want you to answer that question.
What do I get out of being thinner?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I feel like a lot of people have this idea of me, and like a lot of labels, and they're not very positive. And I feel like if I were to gain weight, then all of that would get worse. Like at least in my head, I feel like.
Yeah, you described that very well. You did a very good job describing that. You did. That was excellent. On target. That's how it feels. That is so true in the way that it feels. Don't you agree too? There's a sense of nothingness without it. Literally, you will be nothing, worthless without thinness.
I would be.
Say that again?
I said I would be.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. I felt like I would die. Like I wouldn't even exist. There was no existence. Can you see why then someone would clutch onto thinness so tightly? Despite the miserable horror that you live in because of it, right? It's really forgivable. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense. It's not weird. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, well, of course, if you feel like that, if you felt that way, anybody would be crazy, do weird shit. From that perspective, you'd be crazy not to hold on to thinness. It would be so like, without it, you feel like you're going to die. Why wouldn't you hold on to thinness? Why wouldn't you keep this? Even though it comes with horror. Like you live in hell. You live in total darkness and hell. Your existence is basically nothing. You don't even exist because your whole life is hijacked by this idea of having to stay thin. So you really don't have a purpose. There's no point. There's no authenticity in anything. You're basically trying to avoid, feeling like shit, and you end up being an abusive person. You're toxic to people around you, especially if you feel fat. You become extremely, extremely toxic to yourself and anybody that gets in your way, right? That's reality. But you do that because it's so important to your existence. I don't think people really understand that. Why people would rather die. They go to their death with this. And it's all an illusion that you're a worthless pile of shit without it. Worthless. You are worthless. You are negative. All those labels that you just said, that you believe in. Because that's what that tells me, is you actually believe those labels. Would you agree?
I do.
Yeah, because they're really coming from you. No one's enforcing those but you. You're the one that believes them. You're the one that actually believes that stuff. How does that make you feel?
Well, I have internalized people's beliefs of me.
No, they're your beliefs of you. They're not people's. They're yours. You believe it. You believe it. It's no one else. No one really cares. The truth is, no one gives a shit. No one. So it's you that believes those things. You're the one that actually holds those belief systems, and you're the one who believes it. So you're the person that you think is doing that. You are the person who you think is labeling you. You're the labeler. You believe it, and therefore you hold the shame of what you think. Think of it this way, if someone were picketing the streets and basically saying you're a pile of shit because you're not going to this church, you're going to burn in hell because you're having sex before marriage. Let's just go there, right? A religious cult mentality picketing, and they're throwing Satan at you. Do you believe that? And does it affect you as if you should feel ashamed of yourself? When someone's doing that, does it impact you to where you believe it and you leave and go, oh my God, they're right, I'm a horrible person?
Yeah, but that's what I do.
Okay, so go back to, I'm trying to guide you, come back to what I was telling you. Do you believe those people? Do you take people like that serious?
No.
No. Notice how you have the discernment to go, yeah, they're special. It doesn't affect you. Right? No, so, yeah.
But there's like that one, like someone, a stranger that I don't know, versus like people that I love, people that I know.
So, but if you don't believe something, for example, there's people that you love that probably have other beliefs than you. That are radical, different politics than you. Does it affect you that they think that way?
It does.
Are you feeling sorry for yourself right now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be, the time we're spending together, it's going to be worthless if you're going to feel sorry for yourself. I can't work around it. You're not going to get anything out of our conversation if you're going to be in this state of mind.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
I can't, because you're useless. You're not even you're not trying to connect with me. You're just feeling you're having a pity party. So I can't, how do I work with you? We're not going to make any progress today if you're going to be this way. And it's a choice. You're choosing this. So I want you to snap out of it for a second. Just snap. Come on. And I need you to just listen to me. I don't feel sorry for you. You're the one choosing this. Snap out of it. Okay. I want to help you. But I can't work with that. Get out of it. It's a choice. You're choosing to do that. You need to stop in the middle of this session.
Okay.
Okay. Do you care if someone has a different political belief than you? and that they criticize you. Okay. Do you see how quick and easy that was for you to respond?
Yes.
Good job. Easy. It's not that hard. We don't have to make it hard. You don't have to do that. Someone's proselytizing on the side of the road, picketing. Do you feel bad about yourself because they believe those things?
No.
No, because you don't believe in it. You're like, I don't believe that. So you're not that asshole. But when it comes to body image and thin people, guess what? Guess who's the asshole? Holding yourself to your own asshole belief systems. You are. Of course, there's a culture out there that believes this stuff. But in reality, are people really getting shunned because of their weight? Literally shunned because of their weight? Not the majority. There's a small population of people, even with all the clients I've worked with over the years with severe issues, none of them have ever been shunned because of their weight. I might have had one person has been shunned over the course of the over thousands I've worked with. Right? So the reality of it is that in reality, no one really gives a shit. Not as much as someone who believes in thin supremacy. Someone who believes that thinner people are superior, they truly believe that, this is what happens to them. They end up having, they're holding yourself hostage to this idea as if everybody around you thinks thinner people are superior people. And you're a piece of shit if you're not. So your feelings and emotions and the shame about it come from your own positions about it. It's your position about it. So how are you going to recover if it's your position? You believe thin people are superior. So how are you going to recover from a belief you are holding on to?
No.
You can't. Yeah. No, because you hold it. You're the one that believes it. So you have to question that. I mean, you have to really question, is it really true? Is it really true that when I'm thinner, that my life is superior? I go into the truth of that and answer it. What's the truth?
Is it really true that something in my life will be superior?
Yes.
No, it's not true.
What is the truth?
The truth is that what I was thinking for me to be thinner has pretty much destroyed me.
Yeah. Is it something you would wish on your worst enemy?
No.
No. So is it really, you're holding on to that? So just keep in mind, you're holding on to thinness, and what has it happened? What's happened to in your reality?
I don't know. I've lost myself.
It's tragic. It's tragic. It's a tragedy. This is not just, and it's not only that, but it's a nightmare. It's a total nightmare. How's it working out for you? How do you like it? Right? I want you to consider this. Is it really as awesome as you think? And when someone's portraying that they are superior in their thinness, just go into the anorexics that really are getting off on their thinness and narcissism. I am better than you. My hip bones are protruding out more than yours. Just tell me, how happy are they really?
I'm not very happy.
Oh, yeah. And just keep in mind, what do they got to do to maintain that position of superiority? Are they really winning? Are you winning? Did you win when you got thinner with your recovery? Are you winning? How's it working?
No, I'm not winning.
No, that's the truth. So is it really a bad thing to let go? I mean, is it really a bad thing? Just compare you gaining weight to that. What's worse? What you're in total hell, or gaining 20 pounds? Which one's worse?
Living in hell.
Oh, I know it is. So you got to really question why you're so unwilling to just let your body be. Unwilling. Would you say that's a good word for it? I'm unwilling. I'm not willing. Not willing to do it. Okay, then. What does that mean for you in your reality? If you're unwilling, what does that mean for you in your reality? If you're unwilling to adjust with your body image, what does that mean for you? It's like a contract. You get to stay thinner, you get to be superior, but it comes with hell. You're going to live in a dark, horrible place of misery, pretending you're winning. You win, but guess what? What happens to the darkness?
It's there.
Oh, yeah. And you're living in that by choice. It's a choice you're making. You signed a contract with the devil. You're the one that signed it. No one's making you do this. You're the one that wants to be thinner. You're the one that wants it. There's a wanting of that pride. Don't you agree? I want the thin winner. I want to be the winner. Don't you agree? That's what you're holding on to. That describes anorexia in a nutshell. Very narcissistic, very self-righteous, self-promoting. It's very based on competition with others. It is super, right? It is super competitive. Why do you think they have pro-anorexia websites where people post their anorexia pictures? It's super competitive. Who's thinner? And it's like a narcissistic shit show. Right? And you want that. You want it. That you go into that feeling, that's what you want. Oh, I'll do anything. I want that. Okay. What do you get for wanting that? You won. Look at you. You won. You're thinner. Guess what you get?
Hell.
Yeah, well, that's the truth. That's reality of this. It's not the whole concept of being thinner and winning. Is it even a reality? Does that even exist? Or is it just a weird fucking mind game?
Yeah, it's all an illusion.
Yeah, and you'd have to be willing to get rid of that. Do you really want to win if this is what it takes? Is this what you should have to do to be seen as a good person? Should anybody have to do this to be given acceptance? You'll be acceptable if you're thin. Should you have to do this and live in this just for someone else to say you're acceptable? I want you to really soak that in. What you're suffering with, which is your choice, because you want to win in your thinness, to say, look at me, I'm proving it. That's what you want. Is it worth what you're living in?
No, it's not. It's not worth it. I'd rather just gain the weight and not have to carry that responsibility on my shoulders.
Well, should anybody have to just go there? Again, I'm going to take you there again. Really soak this in. Should anybody, in order to deserve respect, have to live in this type of hell? Is this type of hell worth someone's respect?
Yeah, no.
Do you really want that respect? Do you want respect that's like that? Do you want that? Okay, so really question, do you really want the thinness and what you think you're going to get out of it? Do you really want that?
No.
Wouldn't you rather reject it and say, I don't want their approval. I don't want approval that requires mental illness. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want my sense of approvability to be attached to something so demonic. So superficial. So fake. And actually, it's extremely abusive, satanic, you could call it. I mean, it's horrible. Someone has to be thin to be loved. They have to starve themselves to think that they're worth something. You can really think about that for a second. You have to be as thin as possible to think you're winning to be worth something. to think you're better than others, number one, but to be worth anything in your own mind. Because really, you're the one that's doing this to yourself. You're the one that believes that. So do you really believe it? Do you really believe it? You see where this is your own contract? Where the suffering that you're suffering in is your own. This is what you get? No, really. Is anybody else doing this to you?
No.
No one. No one.
Like I think we've mentioned this before. Like if anybody knew what I was doing to myself in order to gain their respect and love and approval, they would probably, just tell me to, they love and respect me to just me.
Yeah, but it's not their love and respect and approval you're seeking. It's your own. You're the asshole. You're the ass. It's your own love and respect and approval. That's what you're doing. You're the one who thinks that you have to be thin and superior. You're the one who believes that. No one else is. It's you. You're the one you're fighting with. You're the one holding yourself to this shit. Because you actually believe it.
Now, I don't know that we've talked about this, or maybe we have, and I just haven't heard it, but where did that come from?
Well, you believed it. It comes from a system. You didn't create this, but it is a cultural ideology that women are seen as superior, depending on, and if you were in China over 1,000 years ago with foot binding. You just internalized it as a truth, and you're holding yourself to it. And you're radical. You're radicalized. So it's not even like, you could say there's a lot of beliefs out there with religion. But how is it that not everybody's a radicalized zealot? Right? Well, you're a radicalized zealot. You believe in thin supremacy to this most superior level. To the point where you're at. This is what happens. If you believe in thin supremacy and you hold yourself to this type of strictness to it, you're so in your own hell. And to some degree, it's your own deservedness. You deserve it because this is what you believe. So this is the consequence. This is what happens. When people are this radicalized, this strict, this narcissistic about it, it's kind of like, how can you not suffer? Because if you believe in that, you hold yourself to it. So you're holding yourself to these standards that are so inhumane, but yet to you, it means superiority. So where you're struggling is you don't want to give up the superiority. You don't want to give that up. That's why you're struggling. That's why you're still binging and purging. You wouldn't otherwise. You wouldn't be holding yourself to such strict standards with your food, which is why you feel a sense of failure and then why you binge and why you're purging. You wouldn't purge if you didn't have such strict standards. You can't even allow yourself to, it's so intense that you have to purge immediately, but you wouldn't have binged as much if you didn't have the purge anyways. That part to me is just like, well, of course, she's super, super narcissistic functioning in this. She has to purge because she can't give an ounce of wiggle room. There's no ounce of wiggle room. You have to lose the weight as you gain it. Right? That's the whole point of the purge. It's like, it shouldn't be confusing. That's why I'm like, oh yeah, that's not confusing. That's so basic. That to me is so basic. We don't even need to talk about that part. Yeah. If I had to be thin and there was no wiggle room because I am extremely a thin supremacist zealot on the most radical levels, of course you're going to purge. That's like a no duh. You can't gain weight now. You have no choice. That's what it feels like. I have no choice other than to do something, even if it causes extreme damage. Right? Because it's worse to gain weight. I'd rather lose my teeth than gain weight. Because I will lose my superiority if I gain weight. I will lose my winning status. I will lose my pride. I'll be embarrassed because I'm a loser. Because if I'm like a normal person, that's loserville. Normal bodies are for losers who don't have self-control. That's what's backing all this. And the reason you feel the way you do is because you believe it. You actually sustain, and yes, if I look like a normal person, I will be a loser because that's what losers are. Normal. I have to be superior. I have to meet these superior standards. Because without them, I'm nothing. Because people who are like of normal bodies, they're nothing. And I will be nothing too. And that's what's behind all this. So it's like, yeah.
You're like, you sound like far away, and then you sound like you're far away. Yeah.
Got it. Could you hear what I said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this better? Okay.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, so you really need to look at what you believe in. It's your beliefs. No one else cares. It's you that believes this. It's you and your anorexic friends. Yes, you all believe the same shit, and you're all radicalized and zealots about it. There's no grace. You're either a thin, superior person or you're inferior and worthless. And you believe it. So this whole process, how are you going to get rid of this whole disorder with food, which is a byproduct of it all? If you're not willing to surrender your superiority.
How do I do that?
You give up your superiority. You say, I don't want it. You accept that you're a failure, because that's what it feels like from that position. So from that position, it feels like you are worthless. Well, yeah.
But that is different from like self-pity.
Well, self-pity is poor me. I have to be worthless. Feeling sorry for yourself. There's a difference between, because if you're feeling sorry for yourself, are you really accepting it? Is it really willful?
No, because it seems like it's imposed by someone else.
Correct. Doesn't it? So you get that. You need to soak that in. If you're feeling sorry for yourself, you're not doing anything. You're basically having a fit. I did the same thing. It is pathetic. It is. It's like, what's going to change? Is anything going to change if you feel sorry that you have to go through this to recover? Is anything going to really change?
No, because I'm not taking any responsibility for it.
No, you're not willfully doing it. You're basically saying, I'm going to lose my superior status. And that's a terrible thing. Well, is it really if it means that you're free? Should you really complain about it and feel sorry for yourself if it means that you're set free from this bondage of nutcase? Should you really feel sorry for yourself if gaining weight sets you free to be real and truthful? Because you're a liar. You're basically lying to reality. That's the other thing. It's like, so if you just tell the truth, you are a failure to that position. And should you feel bad about it? Should you really feel bad about it?
No, I shouldn't.
Yeah, and if you're free from the torment of that cult torture, is it really a loss? Is it really a loss to get rid of that hell of a religion? Think about it. Is it really a loss? If you gain weight, let's just say you're going to gain 20, 30 pounds. Is it really a loss?
No, it's not.
Isn't it like good for you? Not only that, but anybody who thinks that, oh, look at her, she didn't get it. Aren't you like, yeah, no shit, I'm so glad I didn't. Sick, disgusting, distorted way of being up there in your thin, higher level of supremacy. You can have it. You can have your superiority up there. Woo-hoo! I'd rather be inferior, kicked out, totally abandoned by it. I'd rather be seen as the ugliest person on the planet. That's so much better. That's like a benefit. Right? Than the uppity ups of thin supremacy thinking their life is so much better when in reality they're tormented by the devil. They're like chained to Satan himself. Oh, look at you, you're so much superior. In reality, you know as well as I do, they are miserable people in hell. And they don't, And they signed a contract. They want to be there. They literally want to be there because they think they're going to be superior. So you want to be superior. Narcissistic superiority, it comes with hell. It's like a contract with the devil. I want that. And he says, okay, we'll get it for you. But now you're obsessed. You're self-obsessed. You can't get out. Now you're tortured in hell. You're now dark. It's deep. Oh, but you're superior. Look at you. You're winning. I'm winning, but in reality, you're tormented. It's terrible torment. Torture and torment. You can stay. You can keep your thinness. It's like keeping the facade. You can keep it. You need to accept that this is the way it is. I mean, you can keep on wasting money trying to recover, but what is any of it going to do? If you're not willing to surrender that, what's really going to happen? You're wasting your money, and your effort. I mean, you get to, when you become aware, if this is a choice, I am choosing this, I'd rather have this, then stop going to recovery. You really should stop. Because you're wasting their time and your time. You know as well as I do. You're not going to do anything to change. You're just going to try to lose weight a different way. And you can run circles around these people who don't know what they're talking about. You can convince them you're recovered, and you and I both know you're not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, yes, I'm now a vegan. I'm so recovered. I just work out really hard. I'm just fit. Take up smoking. That'll help you be thin. Yeah, I'm recovered while I smoke and drink Diet Coke all day. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I know. And this is the thing. It's like, there's nothing more than I would want for you than to free yourself. There's nothing more. You're right there. It's right there. It's a choice. I know you know it is. Anybody who's in the truth, if they were to tell themselves the truth, it is a choice. So should you feel sorry for yourself that you're suffering? I know. It's like, why are you feeling sorry for yourself? Cut that shit out. Don't complain. This is what you get. This is how it is. Don't feel sorry for yourself. I'm still binging and purging. Well, of course you are. Are you kidding me? I would too. That's not a mystery. And you know it. That's not the mystery here. Why would you even be clouded by that? Still binging and purging. Well, fuck yeah, you are. You want your thin supremacy. You can't not get away from that. You have to binge and purge. That's the only way to function. It's either that or total isolation from food so you can stay thin. Which one would you rather? You become completely isolated from food, or you function with binging and purging. Both of those are like, well, yeah, hello. That's what you have to do to stay thin. So don't complain about it, because that's what you have to do. So how can you maintain this strict level of thinness without it?
I can't without one or the other.
I know. So don't complain about them. If you're not willing to budge with your body image, you need to accept the lifestyle that this requires. You can't complain about it, feel sorry for yourself about it, when this is, it's a contract. You sign the contract. These are your dues. If you want to be thin and superior, you're going to have an eating disorder. I mean, duh. You can't get both. You can't have relief from this shit and still be thin and superior. It doesn't exist. People who have narcissism around thin supremacy, they're not free. You don't get freedom with that level of self-righteousness around your thinness. It requires that you starve yourself. You isolate yourself. You control your food. You have to control the animal in you. We're all animals. We all have the animal brain. It's like got millions of years of evolution around wiring to get food. So there's no human alive that doesn't have to manage the mammal part of their brain that says, go get food. So if you're a functioning anorexic, you have to isolate yourself from reality to do it because you can't remove that part of the brain. That's why it's like, duh. If you're a thin supremacist and you're functioning in that type of narcissism around I'm superior or I'm inferior without it, you're going to suffer because of your animal brain. You're conflicting with how we're wired. So how can you not suffer? You're going to binge. And then if you have to remain thin, you're going to purge. You're going to do all sorts of crazy things that destroys your body just to stay thin, So that part is not a mystery. If you're not willing to let go of thinness, does it make sense to feel sorry that you have to suffer with what you need to do to stay thin?
No, it doesn't make sense.
I know. So stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Okay.
Right? There's a benefit to what I just told you. If you stop feeling sorry for yourself, now you're like, okay, I either need to accept what this requires or I loosen up my standards on the body image. Now we're talking about what we've been working on, right? I gotta loosen up my standards on the body image. Yes, maybe you should think about that. Because what happens when you loosen the standards around your body image? What happens to the issues with your food? They go away. The suffering goes away. But you know what? It only goes away as long as you're okay not being so thin. But when you want to be that righteous zealot on the top of your pedestal of thinness, what comes back?
All of that.
All of what?
All of that insanity.
Yeah, the strictness around your food.
Strictness.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then what happens? What's your likelihood of binging when you're that strict?
Oh, it's very likely.
And then what's the likelihood that when you've decided I'm going to purge, that the binge becomes massive? Yeah. It's huge. So it's kind of like, you see how that part's like, oh, that's not a mystery. Why even talk about that shit? Duh. So if you want to recover, you either accept what you're doing, stop complaining about it, take ownership. This is what it requires to keep this thin supremacy. This is what it requires. I shouldn't complain about it. I shouldn't keep on being, it's not a mystery. I am by choice choosing insanity and misery because I get superiority out of it. It's worth it. I get something that's worth it out of it. Okay? So if you want recovery, what are you going to have to do?
I like what you said, loosen up my standards on the body image.
There's no other option. Yeah. You can't. So you don't complain if you're not willing to loosen that up. Yeah. And the tighter you get around that, the more strict you get around it, the more superior you are, the worse your problems occur. That anything should be very clear as day to you now. Like the benefit of you having actually, it's not even a relapse because you've never recovered anyways, but for you to witness it, to have seen the loosening of it and how that gave you freedom and the strictness of it and how that made it worse, you can kind of see how this works. It's like, oh, the more I'm strict around wanting to be thin, the worse my problems are with the eating disorder. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, as I release myself from these and I don't have the shame and the guilt about it, my issues diminish. Yes, they do. Full recovery is when someone goes, I am so done with this thin supremacy. I don't want to be superior. I don't want people to give me like, oh, you're thin. I don't want their approval attached to that. I'm done. then recovery is real. Now you're free because you'd rather be disapproved of because of your weight. That to you is such a benefit. It's not even a better problem. It's a benefit because you no longer suffer. You'd almost rather people reject you. Just reject me as I am. I prefer rejection over what I've been doing, hiding from it. I prefer disapproval. If you had to compare your miserable life to being disapproved of by someone, which one's worse? Don't just answer, feel this out. Which one is worse?
No, my life, the way that I've been living my life.
Well, yeah, because it's permanent.
It's worse
and it's permanent.
People say that's so much worse than people just saying that I'm controlling or a perfectionist or I have low self-esteem, I have no confidence. But it really hurts because it's the truth.
Well, yeah, that is for sure. And you're clutching onto thinness like it's going to make everything better. It's just like,
yeah.
So people think you suck. Let's just go through when someone says, oh, she's pathetic. What a piece of shit. I don't want to associate with her. Then what? So that happens. Then what?
What really gets me is when people say that I have low self-esteem and I have no confidence.
Well, that's true. Why would that bug you?
I know.
Why is that so? And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? It's understandable because you've had these belief systems. You're a zealot. You're like a religious zealot with thin supremacy. What do you think the outcome's going to be? You only feel confident, your fake ass confidence, when you're thin. So if you have to be super thin, can you see why you are inherently going to have low self-esteem?
Can you like rephrase that? Or
if you have to be super thin, can you see why you're in general going to always feel bad about yourself? The low self-esteem doesn't come from you. It comes from you comparing yourself to thin supremacy. No shit. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Like, of course you have low self-esteem. The only way you feel good about yourself is the moment you think you're thin. And then all of a sudden you get this raging narcissism. I'm better. I'm winning. And yeah. What you get is you constantly feel like shit about yourself. Unless you have a thin body, which requires that you are completely abusing your soul. It's abusive. It's inhumane. It goes beyond abuse. It's inhumane. Could you imagine starving another animal so that they could be emaciated to prove that they're good enough? That's you. You do that. That's you. So if someone has to be emaciated to feel good about themselves, can you see why they can perpetually feel like terrible human beings because the body isn't meant to be emaciated? You see, normal bodies are pathetic. So of course you're going to have low self-esteem. You're a radical. You're radicalized. The only way you're going to feel comfortable with yourself is if you meet those standards that really require you to die, you know. You have to die killing yourself trying to prove that you're worth something. You know, of course you're going to feel bad about yourself. Is it really low self-esteem or is it low body image problems? I don't know if that makes sense. Because your esteem is so attached to thinness. So you have low thin supremacy esteem. I don't know if that makes any sense. You only feel shitty about yourself because you're comparing your body to something that's emaciated. So then you feel bad about yourself. Thus, low self-esteem. But is it self-esteem or is it body image esteem? Low body image esteem.
Yeah, it's low body image esteem.
Yeah. If you could get rid of the whole body image religion from your life, I want you to recalibrate or rethink what your self-esteem would feel like. If you could get rid of body image from your life forever, You never have to go to that religion. You never have to go to thin church. You never have to. We could get rid of that from your life. How would you feel about yourself?
That would feel good about myself.
Yeah. See? So that's the truth. Underneath it all, it's like, well, no, I'm a good person. But when it comes to my body image, I'm a horrible person. I'm a piece of shit. So your whole low self-esteem thing isn't even, it's low body image esteem. Of course, because your body image esteem comes from an anorexic standard. You get my point? Think of it this way. Someone who holds themselves to, let's just say, religious zealotry, like extremism. Can you see why if they make tiny, minor mistakes, they would have low self-esteem? Low religious esteem, if you want to call it that. Because it's not coming from yourself. It's coming from the ideals or the dogma or the brainwashing. The standards you hold yourselves to when you're brainwashed like that are the standards you're given that are the most ideal, perfectionistic. The ones that are the most perfect, controlled, right? Like, you can't even be alive. If you're alive, you should feel bad about yourself because they're so out of reality, right? You can't have sex. You can't listen to music. You can't you can't have long hair, but you can't have short hair. But you can't wear makeup, but you have to look sexy. Just think of all the crazy religious zealotry type thought processes that occur that inherently built into the belief system. Anybody that believes it is going to have low self-esteem because the standards are out of reality. They don't exist. You're human, right? You have to be a non-human to meet the standards. Is any of this making sense?
Yes, it's making sense. I watched someone posted a tech video on and you commented on it about.
Yes, and I think it's so good. It was so good because that's the standards. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. So the only reason why you don't feel good about yourself and you have quote unquote low self-esteem, which is really low body image esteem, is because you're a body image zealot. You're a radical. Just imagine you're picketing with your anorexic picture saying, we're superior, you're all a piece of shit. That's you. I'm in the thin club and we're cool. Can you see why you're suffering? And can you see why you don't feel good about yourself? Yeah. Can you see why you've struggled? You've struggled inside that religion. Can you see why? Because it requires you completely isolate yourself from reality to starve enough to be thin enough. Can you see why you're struggling? Can you see why you binge and purge? I mean, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you going to have a healthy self-esteem when you believe that shit? It's garbage. When you believe that garbage, what makes you think you're going to feel better about yourself? It's impossible. It's not even self-esteem. It's body image esteem. You get rid of body image from your life, how do you feel about yourself? Are you not a good person?
I am a good person.
Yeah. Think about it that way. It's like, if you can get rid of that, then I'm a good person. I actually am a good person. And I feel good about myself. Well, then, what do you think the solution is here to your low self-esteem?
To let go.
Abandon your relationship, right, with that Thin-Supremacy.
Yeah, like she said, when somebody walked up to her, she told her, when you grow up, you can leave all this behind you.
Mm-hmm. And here we are. I'm here. You're an adult. I'm over here going, you can leave. You can leave. You don't have to stay. But how are you going to leave if you want the thinness? You want the superior. How are you going to get out if you're not willing to leave your superiority?
No.
You're not. Exactly. I can sit out here all I want and be like, hey, you can leave. There's a safe place out here. You don't have to stay there. You can leave. And you know what? There are people who are going to abandon you. But you know what? Do you really want love and affection tied to this?
No.
Me neither. To me, I'd rather start over. I'd rather be on my own forever and never see my parents again if that's what it would take. Because honestly, do I really want to honor and sustain people who would rather I suffer in hell just to make sure that they approve of me for that 1 second? And do you really want to hold yourself? I need you to really listen to what I'm saying right now. Do you want to continue to hold yourself to a belief system that has destroyed your life? Do you really want to continue to hold on to this?
No.
So leave. Let it go. And the way you do that is you say, I don't want thinness. I don't want it if it comes with this. I don't want the superiority of it. If I were thin, I would reject narcissism attached to it. I don't want it. No thanks. I'd rather not be liked because of the thinness. I'd rather not be given credit. I don't care. You know, it's kind of like saying, okay, I want to give to the needy. Oh, and someone's going to say, oh, Jesus is going to support you because you're doing that. I'm doing it whether Jesus supports me or not. I don't care if I'm getting credit from God. I don't do it because I want credit. I do it because it's the right thing to do. It feels good to me. Do you see the difference in that comparison?
Yes.
Okay. It's like, so what if I'm thin? Why does that fucking matter? I don't care. That's the key. You reject the superiority attached to it. It's not about rejecting thinness, and it does come across that way. I have to reject thinness. That's the beginning because it's attached to superiority. And that's what I did. I'd rather be 500 pounds, so if it is meant to be that I am a 500-pound person, I will allow it willfully. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself because in reality, if it costs 500-pound body for me to be free from this torture, I will pay the dues. It's no different than committing suicide to me. It was all the same. I don't know if that makes any sense. For me, that's what I had to do. So to me, it was like, well, committing suicide, isn't that kind of comparable to being fat? That's what it feels like. It's like committing suicide. Yeah, I would rather. So why do I have to kill the body? Why can't I just allow the body to be what it's going to be and go through that form of suicide? I'm killing this old superiority. I would rather be rejected and abandoned and seen as the worst loser on the planet. That to me is easy compared to living in complete torture, avoiding that exposure. So, you know, you just need to see this clearly. Look at it clearly. If you're not willing to budge on your body image, stop feeling sorry for yourself. There's no one's making you do that. You are choosing it. So stop. Boy, I have a mental illness. Fuck that. No, you don't. You're choosing it. It's a choice. If you would be willing to gain weight, what happens to your little mental illness you feel sorry for yourself for? What happens to it?
If I'm willing to gain weight, like that doesn't matter.
Yeah, your little mental illness that you're feeling sorry for yourself over goes away.
Yes.
So, which one's worse? Gaining weight permanently. The key is that you don't have some idea that I'll fix it later, because that's not going anywhere. It's permanently. I'm willing to surrender the superiority. I don't want it. I don't want to touch it. That is like the devil. I'd rather lose what I get out of that contract. I don't want what I got out of it anymore. Because you get something out of that contract. You signed a contract that said, I want to be superior. You get your superiority, but it comes at a really high cost. You don't have a soul. You sold your soul. You don't have freedom. You don't have any type of creativity. You don't have you really have personality. You just have this. You're empty. You're hollow. You're thin and you're narcissistic. How's that? You really want it? Then get rid of it. Then the fear is you're going to be fat and you're going to be worth nothing. Which one's worse? Go into being worthless and fat. Just go there. Which one's worse? Don't say what you think I want to hear. Go into it yourself and answer the question for yourself. Which one's worse? Thin and hollow, living a tortured, tormented life. That is a choice. Or gaining weight permanently and being seen as a failure by others. Which one's worse?
Being thin and hollow and miserable.
Why?
Why? Because to where I have been. And it's just not. It isn't a way to live. It's not life.
Okay, so do you have a life if you're fat and people think you're a failure?
Do I have a life?
If you're fat and people think you're a failure.
Yeah.
Why?
I have a life. Because then what people think is that you won't really matter. People think won't really matter because I know what it was like. And I know what it's like now. And people don't really know. So if they think me being fat is being a failure, then you really have no idea. What I just went through, and I don't need to prove it to you.
No. So why is it better? Besides that, why is it better? What changes?
What changes with being lean?
Yeah, what would be different?
What would the quality of my life?
Explain that. I want you to really paint the picture for me. I could paint it for you, but I'm done doing that. You need to paint it for me.
So, if I let go of the body image.
And you willfully allow the body to gain weight naturally as it's supposed to. Eating freely, to hunger. Yes. What happens? You're going to gain weight. Let's just say you gain 40 pounds.
Okay. I'm going to gain weight. But I feel like I'm going to be relaxed.
Why?
Because there isn't going to be pressure.
I know, and I want you to really think, why is there no pressure? Where does that come from?
From not caring.
You got it. Ding, 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 because you don't give a shit.
It's not.
If that's the cost of freedom, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit. I would rather be 500 pounds. Physically disabled. That would be easier. Because at least you have a soul. You can think and you can witness the world. You can watch the birds. You can connect with nature. No one wants to be with you. You have, even if you're disabled, it's so much easier. It's actually not a big deal. Having no soul and that being paralyzed with nothing on the inside, what's the point of the body? You have a perfect body. What's the point? There is no point.
There is no point.
Nothing. You're not even alive. So you have a thin body, but there's nothing. So which one's worse?
Yeah.
A fat body? that has no need to fix it. That's the thing. No need to fix it because you accept it. You're okay with it, right? Which one's worse, right? Wouldn't you rather just let people reject you and think whatever they think? They can think whatever they want about you. But guess who's free now? If you don't care. If you don't care. What happens?
You need that toxic, abusive relationship.
Yeah. Would you go back? Oh my God, you could be thin. You could be thin and people will like you. Would you go back to that?
No, because it's going to kill me.
Why would you do that? Are you willing to do that for someone to like you? Yeah. Doesn't that just sound ridiculous? You shouldn't have to do anything like that for someone to like you. That type of person who wants you to do that, you might want to think twice. Right? And do you really care to be liked so much that you are willing to live a hollow life with nothing but torture? For a visible body that it's useless. You're useless. I know. You get my point? It's like,
yeah.
So when you let this go, are you really losing something?
No, I'm not.
You're losing a terrible, horrible, wretched life. Good riddance. That's why it's like when you recover, no one relapses. I mean, when you fully recover, why would you go back? It's just like you didn't recover if you go back. You never really let it go if you go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's so terrible. Why would you go back? Why would you go back to something so horrific? There's nothing good about it. Nothing. There's.
Delusional.
Well, you want the superiority. So that's the delusion, is that you really, really think that being superior is worth it. Okay, well, don't complain then, or feel sorry for yourself for the cost of that superiority, because you signed the contract and it comes at a cost. You're basically hollow and you're nothing. Your life is useless. There's no point. Except for you're thin. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Right? Does this seem brutal to you?
Huh?
Does this seem brutal to you? Does it seem brutal?
The process.
Just the conversation.
The conversation. It's pretty raw. Straightforward.
Well, you want to recover or not, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we can pussyfoot around and I can be like, oh, it's so hard. What's that going to do?
Yeah.
Nothing. You can do that for yourself.
Yeah, I can go back to IOP.
Yeah, well, you and I both know that's a fucking waste.
Yeah.
Once again, if you know as well as I do, the only way to really recover, you can go to IOP, go for it. What's it going to do? What's that going to do?
I was being sarcastic.
I know. Well, it's just like their intentions are good. You know more than they do about what's going on. I know you do. And everybody there does. Everybody in there knows way more about what they're doing than the people assisting. Yeah. Denial. You really don't want to recover. You do. You're sick of the madness, but you're not going to recover. You're not going to recover until you're willing to be fat and not feel sorry for yourself and not think that you've done something wrong. And to get to where you're over the idea that that's failure, you're not going to recover until you let that go. All the rest of this is just bullshit. It does serve a purpose. But when it comes down to recovery, you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to admit what you're getting out of the eating disorder. You're getting your thin supremacy. Admit it. You know, that part right there. It's like, yeah, you're not willing to give that up. All the rest of this shit is waste.
So, what if, like, Wednesday, you know, you and I talked on Tuesday. Wednesday, I woke up the day that I binged twice, that I binged and purged twice. I woke up with the intention of, like, I'm going to gain weight. Like, trying to force myself.
Yeah, and that doesn't work because it's forcing. It has to be willful. Okay. You have to say, I would rather gain weight. And it's true, and I feel it in my heart. I would rather gain weight. So I will willfully allow it to happen. If it's forced, you're basically throwing a tantrum, feeling sorry for yourself. Boo, I have to be fat. What does that tell you about the belief in it? You still believe in thin supremacy, and you're sad you're not going to be superior. I can't make you do it. No one can do that. I can't convince you to do it. I mean, the funny thing is, you're the one living in such a miserable hellhole, and you can't convince yourself.
Yeah.
Right? What am I going to do? I'm just saying, here's the directions. This is what you're going to need to do. This is how it feels when you do it. You either go into, you might feel like you're going to die. And you have to willfully say, I surrender this life. If it means I am going to die, and it physically manifests like you're dying, you have to would rather die than to continue. Nothing is worth that life of nothing. That's what it feels like. It physically feels like you will be dissipating into thin air. You don't exist. It feels like that. I would rather not exist than to be in that contract with the devil. It is so bad that non-existent to me, I accept. I just want to tell you, that's what it's going to feel like. And if you want to recover, you accept it with your eyes wide open and your heart open to what it is that exists, if there is one. Because you're not going to know what it is. It's like going into a brand new state of existence. You don't even know what's over there. And you would rather go into that than to be in this one. And it takes a lot of humility to accept the one that I'm in is a failure. It has failed miserably. I am miserable. This contract with the devil was the worst mistake I've ever made. I would rather have something different. And if it means a difference is being fat, I'm willful to do it. I am doing this because it's my choice to do it. It's not because that's what Robin told me to do and she's a bitch. I hate her. She's the one making me do this and I paid her. And none of that. Not that you did that, but I see it and hear it all the time. Whose choice is it to want to be a thin supremacist? Was that my choice enforced on you?
No.
No, it's your choice. So you're the one that gets to suffer because of it. I'm just telling you to let it go. But I want to be superior. Well, you have to let that go. But I want to be perfect. But you have to let that go. Well, then don't complain about your crazy fucked up life if you're not willing to let that go. And it feels like you are giving up everything. And you do. And you have to give up everything to recover. Once you do that, I am here to say, because I have done this. I am not telling you to do something I have not done. I did this. I literally gave up my existence for recovery. And let me tell you, there's a whole nother life that is present when you do it. To where you would have to have brain damage to go back to what you currently exist in. Because it is so bad. Who would choose this? Right?
Yeah.
To where you're like, why would someone choose this? Well, because you're getting something out of it and you got to let that go. And to let that go is going to feel like you're going to die. And yeah, you got to be okay with that. It is going to manifest like you're going to die. So I'm giving you instructions right now. When you do this willfully, and you eat and you willfully choose not to purge. So that's the first thing. You need to cut off the purging. Do not allow yourself to ever purge again. What do you think that's going to force you to do?
Hunger.
Well, there's that. But if you're never going to purge again, what does that mean?
That I'm going to gain weight.
You facing it. You're accepting it. So you get rid of the enablers. No more dieting. No more exercising. No more purging. You shut it all down. I did this. This is what I did. Okay. And I did it all at once. Like, done. I have to face this now. Otherwise, I'm going to commit suicide. So either way, it's going to get shut down. You know, so you shut it down. Everything stops. Right? Not an option. And the moment you feel fat, I want you to lay down and willfully invite it in. Willfully invite it as it's occurring. And I am here to tell you what will happen is you are going to have this overwhelming fear that feels like the Grim Reaper. You will feel it. It feels like the Grim. Like what?
Like I'm giving birth?
No, like the Grim Reaper. You know what the Grim Reaper is? It's going to feel like there is a Grim Reaper in the space with you. And it's going to kill you. The Grim Reaper, Google it.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. Because you made a contract with the devil. I swear to God, this is the only way for you to get out is to go through this. You have to face the Grim Reaper. That's what it feels like. And it is like you are about to get your throat slit. It feels like your guts you're going to be disemboweled. It feels like the worst thing. You're going to burn to death. You're going to get choked to death. You're going to drown to death. The Grim Reaper is going to be right next to you. And you have to literally say, I willfully surrender this existence. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to complain. I'm willfully surrendering this existence. And it feels like you're going to die. And I will tell you that I went there. I just allowed it to happen because it was so bad. Like I just went limp into it. It's like I just moved into it. I allowed it to take over, and I just it was like the willfulness to be gutted. I'm willing to have my throat slit. I mean, it feels like that. And the willfulness in it takes a level of humility to surrender and say, I can't continue to fight what this is. If this is the plan that exists for me, I'm done running away from this. Because it feels like if I continue to run away from it, it's never going to go away. But if this is the truth of God's will for me, if this is what the universe's truth is for me, I surrender to that truth. I'm done playing God. I'm done running from it. I'm done pretending that I can handle it because I can't. And when you go limp to it, this is like walking into the space with the Grim Reaper. Willfully, the Grim Reaper is, that big, dark form that wears that big cloak that covers up the face of and he uses that wheat, it's like, my God, people listening to this video are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Just look it up.
I will.
Okay. Anyways, he comes to collect your soul. It's like it's time to die. And the Grim Reaper comes to you. And he's collecting your soul. You have to willfully give it to him. That is what this is going to feel like. If you just allow it. So the next time do you see why I'm like, you have to shut off your purging. Shut it off. Because it will come to you. Those purges are getting rid of that feeling. Yeah. So today, you have to say, I'm going to face this. If you don't face it today, when are you going to face it? You're not. Exactly. So you have to do it at some point. So you might as well. Yeah, so the next time you eat and you feel fat, I want you to just lay down and go, I feel fat, and I'm going to welcome it willfully. Like, because I have to be willing to feel this if I want to recover. All right.